Welcome back to the Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is Gayle, also known as the Boujee Healer on Instagram.
Hey
Uh,
guys,
yeah, it's such an honor to have you, Gayle. I'm so stoked that we finally aligned this to happen. I'm really excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here. Such a high vibe.
It's high vibes all around. So, um, just to give a little introduction about Gayle, Gayle runs spiritual retreats and tours, and is a permitted guide in Mount Shasta. Almost sounds
Yes.
like permanent, but it's permitted.
I mean, it
Uh,
is permanent.
yeah, right. Gayle facilitates galactic contact, does spiritual mentorship, and spinal energetic sessions for people. We can go a little deeper on some of those in the conversation. And some of the topics we may cover today are the shift of the earth with consciousness shifting,
Mhm.
aligning people with their mission, the Schumann resonance and its connection with solar flares, and obviously Mount Shasta and galactic contact. So I'm super stoked. This is going to be awesome. We're trying out this new mic I got. Hopefully it does well throughout. It's noise canceling, so we should have some good quality. Gayle, welcome on. Um, I would love to hear how it all started for you, like how the awakening started, how the spiritual journey started to unravel for you.
Yeah, that was like, some people have different levels of awakening, which I'm actually finishing a book about right now, like the ascension process and the awakening process, because of all the years of research I've been doing with clients. For me, my path was like a sudden awakening. It was like a sudden Kundalini awakening that happened like out of nowhere. It hit me like a ton of bricks and it changed my life like immediately. And it felt like a whiplash. So that was in 2017.
Did you
And
feel that? Did you feel that energy shoot up your spine?
I saw it. So some people feel it.
Hmm.
I was shown in a half asleep, half awake state, this energy in the form of like frequency and colors moving up my spine.
Wow.
And then I started wanting to meditate. And as I was meditating, I was shown this vision of a version of Earth, like as it is now, and then another version of Earth. And it was just
Mm.
this two versions of Earth. And I had no idea what that meant at the time. And that was like, when I had my Kundalini awakening, and then I started meditating like an hour a day, and I had no idea what was happening. I was becoming depressed. I was becoming very lonely because I was coming more and more spiritual. And I had a business at the time, and like I started talking about spirituality, and like my people around me were like, "What are you talking about?" You know,
I can relate with that.
yeah. And I was in a relationship at the time where he was like, "What are you talking about? Can you please stop talking about this all the time? Like, where did my person go?"
Right.
And it was like nothing was aligned anymore. And I was this crazy person. And I was like, am I actually crazy? Like, is any of this real? What am I imagining? And so you go through that process of like doubting, like, is this real? Am I crazy? Like people are saying I am. And but the thing is, like, that was the most peace and connectedness I had ever felt with myself and God. And I was raised as a very religious Christian, and I'm connected to Jesus, I'm connected to God. And but this was different. This was different for me. This was like, okay, now I feel connected to spirit more than I ever have, but why am I so alone? And why do I feel like killing myself? Why do I feel like going back to where I came from and wanting to die? And so, as I came out and I transcended, I did leave my business. I did try to sit and find myself, and I had to sit with a lot of that. But as I was starting to find out, that this is very real, I am experiencing this. I'm going to accept this is very real for me now, even though everyone around me thinks I'm freaking crazy.
Right.
Right. Then I was like, okay, well, there's got to be other people out there that are experiencing this. And then I started watching YouTube videos, and I found these amazing teachers on YouTube, like that are doing stuff that like I'm doing now, where you're just coming out and you're talking about all of this. And I can honestly say that those people were lifesavers for me at that time.
Hmm.
And so I said, okay, all this knowledge that I'm gaining right now, I'm going to go out there to the world and I'm going to talk about this, because there is not enough awareness about what you go through in the awakening process and how dark it is and how lonely it is.
Absolutely.
So, that was, it hit me like out of nowhere, this crazy Kundalini awakening. And everybody, when you say you had a Kundalini awakening, everybody's like, oh, yeah.
Right,
That's
buddy. Yeah, sure.
Like if you know, you know, like that shit's intense.
Yeah, just to add into that, my experience was actually really similar.
Really?
I was driving and then it just shot up my spine. I was
Oh
like
my
in
gosh.
I was like I was like in this deep like submission and surrender to creator, and I was praying and I was crying, and I'm like, please just show me the truth, like why is all this happening to me? And then all of a sudden this like it felt like a lightning bolt going but
Yeah.
backwards, like from up my spine, and I didn't know anything back then and
Neither
about
did
any of this
I.
stuff. But yeah, same thing. Like everything just started opening up. Everything just started aligning. I started finding my teachers. I started finding the videos and everything that was aligned for me to like step onto the path, And it was
Yeah.
looking back at it, it's so cool how it was just like all there. I just had to become aware of it.
And let's acknowledge that like if it wasn't for those people opening up their expression and putting themselves online, that we wouldn't be sitting here today the way that we are. So like I feel like that's such inspiration for what you and I are doing, and for anyone listening to this
For
that
sure.
wants to go out and express this. It could be that one person that is feeling like suicidal thoughts, that literally can't take the human experience anymore because no one understands them, that you are going to affect with your frequency and voice. So like gratitude to those people that we found online that were teachers, right?
For sure. For sure. Hands down. Hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of the intention of the podcast is to help with the mass awakening, to give this kind of awareness that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's not like this for most people, it's not like this beautiful transition. You go into your deep shadows
Yeah.
and then come out like it's kind of like putting your roots into hell to be able to reach up to heaven, It's like,
Oh.
you
Oh,
know, it's
I love
yeah,
that.
it's like just having to dive into yourself and look at like what is this? Like
Yeah.
why is this shadow here? Like what is it trying to teach me? And yeah, I mean it's a whole thing. So
It is a
that's
whole thing.
yeah, so that's so amazing. So that all happened and then everything started opening up. It sounds like you left your job. That relationship seemed like it
That
fizzled out.
relationship tried to make it work for years, actually. And it was very difficult because, when you are one person one day and then you awaken to all this stuff, you're a different person. That old version of you dies. And that's hard to accept for a partner who is not ready to accept that. And it's also hard on you because you feel very alone. And like you're like living in two different worlds. And so it's hard for both people on both sides when that happens. And I think that's an experience that also a lot of people go through.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I can totally relate to that.
yeah,
Big
yeah,
time. Big
yeah. And
time.
there's no right or wrong. There just is these relationships that you're in to learn from each other, and you grow and you evolve from it. And then at some point, if it's not resonant anymore, then you have to shift, and you have to really continue to follow your heart and what your body is telling you. Your body's an intelligent like vessel. It will feel good with the right people. So it'll
And
shift you out of what you need to be shifted from.
that's the hard truth, I think. That's the
Yeah.
really hard truth. I mean, it's been something that's been really difficult for me to accept, because I I would date people and then we'd be on the same frequency,
Yeah.
having some same offerings, and then a lot of times one of us outgrew the other,
Yeah.
and then it just the resonance wasn't there and it just fizzled
That's a
out
hard
and
thing. It's always hard, because you can't force things to be in resonance that aren't in resonance anymore. And that's like just the way that we have to keep shifting around. And I think that's the biggest thing that we learn in those instances is letting go of control and attachment. And the moment we become completely unattached, that's when we have bliss. We experience more bliss because things move more gracefully. We're not trying to hold on to something that's no longer in resonance.
for sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a huge practice of surrender and trust and and just like
Yeah.
just knowing that for me it's knowing that my spirit and my soul chose this
Yeah.
and it chose these experiences and each one of them was a huge teacher for me.
Yeah, they're all teachers. I'm grateful for everyone that's been a teacher in my life, and that's one thing that, a lot of people are like, Like, how are you just so like unbothered all the time? You know, like you get to this point where you have strengthened your ability to be unbothered. You don't have resentment in your heart anymore. You only have love. You only have compassion, forgiveness. And then in every instance in your life, that reflects. If someone's coming at you and you're feeling feelings, it's easier to accept everything if you come to a choice of acceptance in your heart for like everyone in your past, all of your past relationships are reflections and mirrors of you. So those people that you're no longer in resonance, they have been such teachers, you know, and that's like why we're acknowledging that, because gosh, they have been such good mirrors for us to learn about ourselves, right?
For sure, for sure. I think that gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness are really huge ways to continue to level up and continue to
Yeah.
raise our frequency, and like true gratitude and true forgiveness, not just like,
True
oh,
forgiveness.
thanks,
Yeah.
thanks God, like
No, just like I'm not going to have anger or resentment in my heart towards this person. I'm going to cleanse my heart and purify my heart because I'm accepting that everything is divinely perfect. And if you're not in acceptance of that, you're creating resistance for all of the abundance and prosperity and happiness and joy and love that can come into your life. That's the biggest thing really that people have when I do healing sessions and work with people is they're holding something in the back of their heart that feels like pain. And it's always relationship based.
Mhm,
And if you have pain in your heart and anger and resentment in your heart, and you still haven't fully cleansed your heart of that anger and pain, it's going to show up in everything in your life, your business relationships, your personal relationships. So that's the work we have to do on ourselves is like the heart is acceptance. The heart is non attachment when it's pure and open.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. It's tough sometimes because sometimes people will come to me and I'll ask them like, okay, do you feel like if you're really real with yourself, that you truly forgave this person, like deep down inside? And sometimes they'll say yes, but like I can feel that there's still a little charge, even
There's
by
a
the way they say
charge. You
it.
can feel it. It's undeniable.
Yeah, and it's like, who are you trying to trick? Like, there's nobody benefiting from you not being real with yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
just if you're feeling it, if you're feeling even this like 1% of a charge with someone, right?
It
Like,
blocked you.
then
It
yeah,
blocked
that's
you.
gonna have a huge impact.
It will, and it blocks you in every aspect of your life. So it will block, like when your heart's open, it's the vortex, literally to the higher dimensions, that it's where you can access your higher aspects. So you won't be able to perceive another reality until you're able to access that higher perspective, which you can't do if you're still in pain in your heart, you know? So that charge, it needs to be, harmonized.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that brings on the question of like, what would you recommend for people? Obviously, besides working with you, like I know for me, Hape has been a really powerful medicine to like
Nice.
tune into that part of my body, like the back of my heart. Also,
Mm-hmm.
combo, where it's like working with the emotions and purging all that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any, do you have any tools that have worked for you?
Absolutely. Spinal energetics actually really opened the back of my heart.
Okay.
And that's why I became a spinal energetics practitioner because we work on the major spine, the physical spine, and the energetic spines. And there's places in the back of your spine that sometimes people don't realize can be blocked in the meridians of the body, in the energy bodies. And what the spinal energetics does is it connects you to also the layers of the auric field. So you find a point that's blocked on your spine or the energetic spines, and then you find which layer of the body is more charged, and you begin to harmonize the energy, and the energy can move up the spine and down the spine better. So for me,
Ah,
that kind of energy work, and I'm a Reiki master teacher as well, so Reiki really helps me, but spinal energetics started taking it to the next level where I was the receiver of my first session with it, and it was online, virtual. It wasn't even
oh,
in person.
wow.
I was laying there and I was like, yeah, I've seen people in CAP, like Kundalini activation process. They're all like, and I've done that, and it actually is effective. 100%.
Okay.
I felt the transmission of energy in my spine, and I felt my hands get numb, and I wanted to move my body. It absolutely is effective. And then I tried spinal energetics. same thing where I was like, okay, these people are moving around. I just want to see what I feel in my body. And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden my heart, like it felt like it pops open at the back of my spine, and I start crying. I start like wailing, like loud crying. And I'm like, I don't even know where that came from or what it is, but that needed to move from my heart. And
Yeah.
I felt so much lighter after that session. So, any work on the spine and the Kundalini energy, maybe Kundalini yoga and the Kundalini breath work, I think is so powerful for people to do when it comes to opening up the heart. Because, yeah, we're focused on the heart like this, but there's a back part of the chakra of the heart, and it works with different aspects. And a lot of what I find back there is the pain, the deep seated pain that people haven't cleared yet, the unforgiveness, the unacceptance. And I think that breath work people can do at home, and that kundalini breath work, kundalini yoga, different
Mhm.
yoga poses to open up the chest and open up the back of the heart, all of these things are helpful, but really starting to pay attention to the back of the heart, not just the front.
Mm, mm.
That's what
I
I've
love
noticed.
that. Yeah, those are all really amazing suggestions for
Mhm.
sure. And I actually have never tried spinal energetics, so I would love to have a session with you and maybe we can
Yeah.
sort of exchange. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I'm really curious about it. Like when you had that pop, did you hear anything or was it just like an energetic release?
It was an energetic release. I just
Okay.
felt that something went open up. It
Uh,
was just like, and I felt the emotion come up like a flooding of energy immediately. The tears just started coming out of my eyes. The voice came out of my throat, and I was like, "Ah," just like, "Ah," just like
wow.
a deep release. And I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? But I needed it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really amazing. Yeah, I'd love to try that. I think that it's interesting that you talk about like the aura and the different bodies because in Kundalini yoga, we're taught that we have 10 energetic bodies. Do they talk about like the different layers of the body
We
or
do, and it's very similar to like Reiki healing, where there's like the main seven energy centers that connect to the main seven layers of the energetic bodies.
okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Really cool. Really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a Reiki master as well, and I that was my first really spiritual experience was
yeah,
like with my first attunement. It was
same.
it was profound.
That's about the time, like right after I had my awakening, I was meditating and I felt tingling in my hands, and then something told me you need to go open up your healing centers, and that attunement changed my life. The Reiki attunement. Like, because then you can give yourself healing, and now you're constantly channeling energy, which means you're constantly dropping density and opening up your vessel to hold more light. And all of a sudden, you're just ascending at a rapid rate.
Right.
That's when
Right.
I became vegan too, because I came out of a Reiki. So it was after my level 2 attunement, which is takes you even higher, right?
Hmm.
And then I'm doing all these Reiki sessions on people, and then I came out of a session. And I went to eat chicken, and I was like, "Whoa." It felt really heavy energetically to me, and then energetically I became more sensitive, and not it's not for everybody, being vegetarian or vegan, but for me energetically I was needing to channel so much light at that time that I didn't want more density in the body, so it changed me physically, emotionally. All that Reiki attunement is next level.
For sure. For sure.
Right.
Yeah. Man, when I sat down with my Reiki master and there was like seven of us seated and next to each other, and as soon as she started the first attunement, we're like in this deep meditation that she takes us into. And as soon as she started the first attunement, which for those that don't know, an attunement is like an opening of the crown chakra, and the master pours the Reiki energy through the crown chakra into your body. And as soon as she started doing that to the first person, uh, we're in this meditation. I started seeing symbols in like bright blue popping up while I'm in this meditation, walking through these woods in my mind. And
Amazing.
I'm like, what is going on? And later on, I realized that those were the symbols that I eventually learned as a Reiki master. And then
Wow.
I continued on to learn other symbols. And then I worked with Sekhem Reiki, which works with Sekhmet.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
the coolest part about becoming a level 3 with that Reiki is that you actually go and find her in the spiritual realms, and
Hmm.
then she gives you your own symbol.
Wow, I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
It was really cool. Yeah, it was really
That's
cool.
powerful.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
Working with different
working,
consciousnesses, it's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah. Are
and
you
so
a
like,
Reiki master teacher? Do you tune people yet?
yeah,
Amazing. That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, we
and
can all move up to be teachers.
for sure, for sure. I mean,
Right.
we the more teachers, the better. I think Reiki is
Yes,
one of the best like first initiations into the spiritual path. I
I couldn't
think
agree more.
if everybody was attuned to Reiki, the world would be so much better.
I say that literally all the time. I'm like, if we could just have everyone attuned to level one, this
That's
world
it.
would be completely different.
Yeah, yeah. And then just like slide a little bit of psilocybin in people's tea, just obviously with consent, but like here,
Yeah,
try a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit of
yeah.
this. Like I know you're
Just
in charge of the
make it
government
norm.
and big decisions, but just try it. It might help you open up a little bit, you
I
know?
am a big fan of the psilocybin medicine, and I love the rewiring of the brain that it assists with. Even like I feel like microdosing it has been beneficial for so many people that I know with anxiety and depression, and just like rewiring their way of thinking and creating more space for them to breathe. I'm a big fan.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's a really amazing medicine and it's from the earth.
Hmm.
It's like it's for me, I like to keep it as natural as possible, as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Same.
So I had a question for you. So for those people that are new to maybe first time hearing about Reiki, first time hearing about spinal energetics,
Mhm.
and hearing about how you weren't even in person with for this treatment, can you share a little bit about from your experience how that's worked, where you don't actually have to be physically there with the person? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, so you're working in the field, you're connecting in the etheric realm. And it's like, we have this where we can be telepathic. We have this ability to connect into each other's fields right now as we are and connecting consciousness. And it's kind of similar to distance Reiki, where you bring in the distance symbol and you can give somebody Reiki from anywhere in the world because you're traversing time and space and you're just going into the astral and you're bringing it down from the astral. It's the same thing with spinal energetics. So I can give a session just like this online, and people feel it just as much as they would in person.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing. You're just working in the energetic body, you're disconnecting your consciousness in with the energetic body of the person receiving.
Yeah, and do you think that there's a belief that somebody has to have in order to receive that, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think that there's a combination of needing the belief, yes, number one, because if you have the belief, you are open to receiving it.
Hmm.
If you don't believe it, you're not really open to receiving it.
Right.
So just like in Reiki, where we kind of need to get permission to work on somebody,
Hmm.
with the spinal energetics, I can give somebody spinal energetics. Doesn't mean that they're really willing to receive it if they don't believe that they're actually receiving it. So I would say, yeah, there's a belief that needs to be there.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and there have been times that I think that it does work even without belief, because I've I remember when I was training for level two Reiki, I would be looking at a photo of someone that I didn't know from somebody else in the class, and then the teacher was like, "Okay, just tune into them. Just tune in and see what's going on, like who this person is." And I remember I tuned in and I started seeing an image of like um the Atlantic City boardwalk in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I remember like seeing this little girl walking with an adult, and I shared it with the person, and they were like, that was our favorite place to go, was the Atlantic City
Oh
walk.
my
And I
God.
was like, whoa, how did that just happen? Like,
Yeah, you're tuning into their field. Yeah.
and
That's
like
what happens when I do sessions.
I didn't have any
Yeah.
belief in it that I could do that. I was just like, all right, let's see what happens. And then
Oh, and your end. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So that was a really interesting experience for me to have, where it was like, okay, and that started opening up doors to more and more of these like majestic, almost mystical experiences, where it's
Yeah.
not really explainable by science and today's modern society, you know?
Right. No. And there's a lot of unexplained things going on right now that people are going to see more and more of, which is going to open up more consciousness in general, which is going to be so amazing. And I feel like this year, 2025, is a big year for that. It feels massive. It feels like there's so much energy coming from the sun, which, we can talk about more.
Yeah, let's
That
talk about it.
Let's talk about the sun.
Yeah.
So I study a lot of space weather, and if you watch my Instagram already, I talk about the solar flares and the Schumann resonance because I noticed during my awakening process that when I was having the headaches and the head pressure, and I would be like, what is going on? Why do I feel like I've been plugged into an electric socket? Why did I just get a sudden wave of tiredness? Why am I anxious and irritable out of nowhere? I started seeing these updates coming in on us. Oh, we had a solar flare. And I'm like putting it together and I'm like, wait a minute. How come every time there's a solar flare, like an X-class solar flare, I feel like this, right?
Mhm.
And then I started noticing a pattern here. And then the Schumann resonance, same thing. When we have a big blast of like light coming in, the Schumann resonance measures the vibration of the earth and what's going on with the light that's coming into the earth. And so I'm noticing all the patterns and I've been studying it and taking courses on it and learning, but also working with clients every day. I get to tune into the collective of what's going on through everybody. So
Mhm.
that's why I give collective messages on my Instagram, because I really am tuned into the collective. And people will be like, how did you know? Those are all the things that I'm experiencing. And I'm like, yeah, you and everyone I'm working with and myself. So it's like we're all collectively experiencing these things in our own ways. And then there will be people that are like, well, if I'm not feeling anything, does that mean I'm ascending wrong or I'm not ascending? And I'm like, and that comes up. And I'm like, no, nobody's doing this wrong. You're just at a different place and frequency and vibration. Doesn't mean that if you're even asking me this question, you're ascending. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if you're even watching my Instagram, you're ascending.
Right. Right.
And people will doubt, like, hey, I don't think I'm ascending anymore because I'm not seeing things and I'm not hearing things. Like, brother, sister, if you're having this conversation, you're ascending. Like, you're conscious enough to have this conversation, you're ascending in this lifetime because this is what's happening with the earth right now. So every, about 250,000 years, we have this big solar event.
Mhm.
And some people like to talk about the solar flash or the great solar flash, where we're going to have a bunch of light just flood the planet, and all of a sudden consciousness is lifted up, and we have like dissolving of the old earth and consciousness splitting. We have all these different perceptions of what will happen when we have a big consciousness shift, but we're on the way there. And what I've been shown personally in my own transmission from Divine Mother is we are being given this light in doses, and it's coming through our sun, and it's showing up on the Schumann resonance,
Mhm.
and the energy that's coming in is giving us little doses and preparing us more in our vessels to hold more sun, to hold more light. And what this light does is it comes in and it activates our dormant DNA, and it starts reconnecting our dormant strands to the correct portals, our 12 strand DNA. And then we start to activate our light bodies. And when our light body's been activated, we go through these different stages of light body activation. And as we go through these stages of light body activation, we start to crystallize our light body. We go from carbon based light body to crystalline. Now we can hold more light. Now we can hold more higher frequency. And we're going to see other people experiencing this energy differently. And that's why we can't get flooded with a bunch of light too much at once, because our bodies cannot handle it and our mental state can't handle it. We'll go absolutely insane.
Yeah, the
Right.
nervous system has to be primed and
Yes.
it takes time.
Yes.
And like practices like Kundalini yoga, which we mentioned earlier, are
Mhm.
really effective for that. And,
Yes.
you know, it's really interesting though, like the question of like, am I ascending right or am I ascending at all? I've found that like the last year of my life, um, I felt like this is just a feeling that I'm experiencing right now, but it felt like my spiritual journey was plateauing. Like my spiritual um, development, like kind of hit and has
Hmm.
been like steady, right? And so I've been really curious about it. I haven't been judging it, just kind of wondering what's going on. And I realized that what my intention and what my focus has been to align my financial income and have that steady stream of finances really stable. And
Yeah.
so, like for 2 years, I didn't really work, and I was like basically kind of lived like a monk, where I meditated a lot and
Yeah.
lived on the ocean like a block away. So I spent a lot of time in nature and really was vibing up. And so then it felt like those financial aspects weren't caught up to that. And so this past year, it's been like catching up those other aspects of self that needed to also be locked in so that I could keep going
Yeah.
onward and forward.
I want to talk about that and thank you for sharing that because that's what I work with now is like, okay, how do we integrate this now into the human experience? Because what happens a lot is like we go through this whole spiritual journey, we get super in our upper chakras and we're meditating and we're monking and we're like, we're doing the thing, and like all of a sudden we're like, oh crap, like I've got to go to the DMV and I've got to pay my registration and then
Right.
like do these human responsibilities and we're like, the 3D stuff.
Hmm.
But then there's a way to start integrating and shift our perception of this being 3D and that being 5D, but I'll bring it together and merge it into like this whole thing is spiritual.
Right.
It's all spiritual
Hmm.
and starting to love money
Hmm.
again because in the spiritual community because I do workshops on money and I do workshops on like getting into your mission and making money doing it
Hmm.
because I've been able to align with those codes very well.
Hmm.
And it took a lot of work and it wasn't the physical work at all. It was my mental programming work that I needed to break through.
Big time.
Because there's a lot of hate around money in the spiritual community of like, I hate money. I don't like money. Money is evil. I don't need money. But I'm like, okay, well, if you have that relationship and that feeling towards money, money's going to reflect it back to you.
It's a
So,
subconscious program that's so
yeah,
deep in
it is.
almost everyone, like in
It is.
so many people. It's
It's so deep.
Yeah, I mean, think about how many generations before us had so much trouble with money, with like, I mean, it was totally different back then, but
Right.
it was also like still a thing for thousands of years. Money's been around since 500 BC.
Right.
So it's
Right. And
like,
then we have this like program process around it when it's actually just pure consciousness. It's
mhm,
an energy, it's a frequency. And we have all this weird programming around it that we have to work on. Okay, there is so much money available to us. There is so much money.
it's
But
literally infinite.
it's infinite, just like energy is infinite, right? But we have to open up our perception to perceive that. And also, there's a lot of unworthiness that comes up in
Big
that
time.
lack mentality of like, I'm not worthy of having that much money. I'm not worthy of feeling that much success. And that sits really deep under guilt, under shame, whatever needs to be worked through. And coming to the place of, I deserve this. I deserve and I'm worthy and I'm a powerful creator and I can co-create this with the universe and I believe in myself enough to do it now. There's a lot beneath that.
For sure. Yeah, and I wanted to add a piece on there where for me it was really tied into finding my cosmic mission and
Yeah,
figuring out like what I'm really here to do and like what am
right.
I really excited about like to help others, to be of service, you know? And
It.
what's that?
That's it. Getting into
Yeah.
a getting into alignment attracts all the prosperity and abundance.
Yeah, because if I was when I was 18, I would have spent all like if I got a lot of money, I would have spent it on a Lamborghini. I would have done all these things that were like in self-service,
Right. Mhm.
And so when I found what was really important for me to do in this lifetime, it aligned me with this whole new perspective on money, where it's like, okay, whatever money I make is going towards this mission of creating this land and having a conscious community there. It's like that's where the money's going. It's not like I'm gonna go and, you know, do the things that I wanted to do when I was 18, which was a whole different frequency, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. And like honestly, if we all would have had money up until now, like we really wanted to, we wouldn't be as spiritually evolved.
Right, right, right.
So,
Yeah.
okay, but
So
now I think we've evolved enough and we're ready for that money.
right, right, right. Yeah, I'm not just gonna waste it. I can like thrift shops are, super cool now. So I, like
Thomas, Thomas, where do I sign?
right, right, right. Yeah, so from a higher perspective, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It,
Yep.
it makes a lot of sense for me, like why it didn't happen at those times, because I wasn't
Exactly.
ready and I wasn't like responsible with my money and I wasn't responsible with like it wasn't going towards anything more than feeding my ego. Let's put it that way.
Right, right. And also now when you get into alignment with your mission, now you know that the money can flow through you and go to the mission to help raise consciousness the way it's supposed to. Because money isn't just coming from people to us, it's just coming through somebody else, through us to the mission and outwards. And it's just recycling through to get everybody where they need to be. And it's all about alignment. That's it. I'm glad you mentioned that because I noticed that it wasn't until, oh, here, there's a lot that comes with getting into alignment. It sounds a lot easier than it is.
It's not as easy as it sounds.
No, because when you get into alignment, that means you have to let your old self die completely and all of your attachments to the way that you have been die completely. And you have to make really uncomfortable decisions to get into alignment. That means, whether you have to leave your job and you have to figure out a way to make this happen or make the transition happen. That's scary. And a lot of people have a resistance when it comes to that process. They
Huge
want to do
resistance.
soul work. I want to be doing my soul work, but how am I going to pay my bills? And that is the biggest thing that I get people coming to me for. Like, I really am ready. I really am ready, but like, how do I do this?
Hmm.
And it's a big process and it's a scary process. And like you said, it's all about the art of surrender and the art of trust. And it's the scariest thing to do sometimes. But then on
Well,
the other side of it, we get to see how much support we actually have.
yeah, for sure. And because, taking those big jumps, I'm reading a book right now called The Big Leap, where it's like, have you ever read it?
No, I've heard of it though.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. This guy talks about um, how we have different levels that we live in. There's four different levels. So there's like um, your level of contentment, discontentment, contentment, um, excellence, and then genius. And so I may have used other words for the first two, but basically it's so interesting how he talks about how when you're most people kind of plateau at that level of excellence, right? And you see so many people out there like they have the nice car, they got the house, they have the picket fence with the wife and the kids, but then they
Yeah.
hate life. And it's like, okay, why does this person just is so upset and depressed? And it's a part of it could be because they're not living in their genius, which is like what they're really kind of like what I just talked about, right? Like purpose,
Right.
mission, like what are they really here to do? And that like pursuit of true joy and upliftment of like what's excitable, like what's the most excitable aspect for me today? Like what am I most excited
That's
to do?
sets you on fire? What is that thing? Because here's the thing, somebody, will tell me, like, I don't even know what that is. Well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's the first question I say is like, what lights you on fire? What makes you feel good? Painting? It can be simple because everybody thinks that, oh, I have to be working to be in my mission. And the working means doing, right?
Right.
But there's so much resistance. What if you were just creating? What if you were just being creative? What if you were singing? What if you were dancing? What if that's part of your mission? And
Yeah.
people are like, oh, that's enough? Of course it's enough. Like,
Right.
you could be raising the frequency of the grid of the earth if you're in a high vibration dancing. Like, it's keep be as simple as that. And some people are like, oh my gosh, big realizations in that.
Big little like pieces of the puzzle clicking together.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I really like what you said about how money flows through you and is a flow because money in the Asian culture is considered the water element.
Mm,
And so from what I'm learning right now and continuing to learn is that money likes to move. It doesn't
right,
like to just like sit in a bank account. It likes to be invested in the stock market or into crypto or into like a retreat or self-help. Like it likes to continue to move.
right.
And and that aspect I think people may not always realize because it it does really like to just flow.
It does. It really loves to. And the way you feel about money, because sometimes I'll post about this stuff and there will be one person in there, I'll be like, money is evil. I'll be like, okay, well, if you have that feeling towards it, it will reflect it back to you.
Hmm.
You know, if you start to open up and love money and say, this money provides me for stability for my children to be homeschooled. This money provides me with freedom to go and buy organic produce that is good for my body. And you start looking at it as a very positive thing that allows you to raise your vibration, then your money relationship develops differently and it starts to be more attracted to you because you're opening up for it to flow through you. And so that's the first step is like, how is your relationship towards money? And it's like really taking a look at that because that is going to reflect how it flows to you.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. So, I would love to transition and talk about Mount Shasta and the galactic
Yeah.
aspects of it and you being a guide over there. Like you must have seen some really cool stuff.
I really have. And I don't think you know this yet, but over the years, I have done these contact groups here. Well, I'll do them on my retreats, all of my retreats and all of my private journeys that I do with clients here. Most of them include a galactic contact evening because here in Mount Shasta, there is a lot of activity when it comes to galactic activity. And this place has tons of portals. And, this is stuff that people can say, oh, I don't believe it. I've had a lot of non-believers as like, partners of a girlfriend or something on a retreat. And they'll come in and be like, yeah, this is okay, whatever, you
Right.
crazy. Like, and then they leave going like, oh my gosh, like I've had, people come out here, especially the guys are the ones that are like, I don't know about all this, and
Right.
then I'll have a contact experience and they'll be like, oh my gosh, like the joke is not on you, it's on everyone else that doesn't believe. Like, this is real. And I've had so many of these contact experiences here. There was one that absolutely have changed my life. I was on the mountain and I was just doing I was trying to drop in and send a signal up. And then all of a sudden I look up and I was with a group of friends and there was this big, what looked like a star. It just started moving down towards us and it started to expand and it came so close to us and we felt the vibration of it. Somebody in the group got really scared and it went,
Oh, wow.
but the way it felt, the way we connected with it, I was like, oh, okay, this is really happening. And the more and more I expanded my own consciousness, the more I could see, the unveiling of the ship. So I was actually with groups, and the vibration of the group does matter. I've noticed that the people in the group, their belief systems, that does matter. And the more they believe, the more that they're open, the more that there's no fear, the more contact experiences you can have. So it's really about being in the heart. So I learned all of this stuff throughout the years and having these experiences with people. And over that time, I developed a method called the Mothership Method.
Okay.
And you can go on my website, mothershipmethod.com, and it's free to access the meditation that I created to help people connect. So if you want to try connecting in there, it takes you through a process. And the process that I was shown is like you need to take people into more elevated states first. You need to do a clearing on yourself, and you need to raise your vibration. And when you're in a higher vibration, you have a higher chance of making contact with higher dimensional beings. Because really, we're going to have some physical contact happening not too long from now.
For sure.
And, and these beings are extremely high frequency.
Hmm.
And we have to get to at least a higher fourth density state of consciousness in order to have this kind of contact. So that's the goal. The higher amount of, consciousness we hold, the more contact experience we can have. But I was
Okay.
contacted when I was in the beginning stages of my awakening. I had 3 ships come right over my head while I was doing Tai Chi.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, and I was just guided to close my eyes and just feel whatever I needed to feel. And it felt like a static electricity coming down through me. And it felt like a bliss energy, like so much unconditional love. I had like tears streaming down my face. And I was like, what was that? And I caught it because I was filming myself doing Tai Chi
Hmm.
on the time lapse that I was doing.
Oh, you got to show me that. That sounds so cool.
I do have videos and photos of other things that I've captured. A lot of them I have been guided not to put, like told not to post anywhere.
Okay. Okay. So the ships, what did they look like?
So many different ships.
Like those three that were above you.
Those one were triangular ships.
Okay.
I've seen all kinds of different. I've had a client here not too long ago. I have my private property in Mount Shasta that I bring private clients, and it's very active. And my last client saw this, and I saw it like last bit of it, but it was an etheric ship. It was like see through, but like rainbow and like a big saucer kind of. And so that one was kind of like etheric, but you could still see the outline of it. So there's so many different shapes and forms that we see out here of the ships. We also see beings. I've been in connection with Saint Germain in the physical on the mountain in front of a group of people.
Okay, I was gonna ask you about that. So he's actually appeared in the physical in front of you?
Yes, and I have like a video of him sitting with our group, and
Wow.
I took a little screenshot of that video, and it's it was pretty wild because he came and talked to me about sound. And, it was like, oh, who is this being, that just sat with us and started meditating and then comes up to me and starts talking about sound. And when he walked away, my friend goes, is that Saint Germain? And I was like, oh. I look back and he smiles and walks away. And from that point on, for the next 3 days, my brain felt like mush. Like I was glitching out. I was like, no way did that actually happen. No way was that really Saint Germain. But I got the download after that happened and I integrated all that information that they're no different than us. They are just ascended versions of us that are giving us this, have been giving us this information to help us get to become a master ourselves and that state of consciousness. And different masters will come to different people because you're probably part of their lineage or you have a connection to that master, that you might be connected with more. Like some people connect with Jesus, Yeshua, Buddha, whatever the ascended master is you connect with. But that's one that I really have always felt connected with. And then boom, he's just talking to me on the mountain.
Yeah, so I've had so Saint Germain, for those that don't know, is a saint that actually ascended with his body. So he left this planet and like there was no like his body went with him. And there's a rock, um, a group, an outcropping of rocks on Mount Shasta that has been told that that's where it happened. That's where he ascended, right?
There's a lot of stories about Ascension Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's really interesting is one of my buddies, when I was out there, he said, I went a little bit deeper into the woods
Mhm.
and he said, I found this rock that I believe is the actual Ascension Rock, and that the rock that they show, which is like next to a parking lot, isn't that
The real rock
actual
is
one.
not
And it's
Hammond.
kind of like a distraction from the real one. And do you know
That's
which one
where
I'm talking about?
I resonate with that one.
Do you know which one I'm
I
talking
know
about?
exactly where it is. Yeah.
Okay. And so I've gone there and I've had some really, like, there's this amazing view if you climb up to the top of it of the actual Mount Shasta mountain. And I mean, you're on the mountain, but you see the snowy cliffs and everything. And
Yeah.
and so that spot, I've had some really profound experiences. I've left crystals there that when I came back, they were gone, like in like the tiniest little nooks and crannies.
That's a very special spot.
Yeah.
I take people there too, and that's a real vortex. Like that's a very sacred spot, and I'm glad you
Yeah.
know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been one of my favorite spots to revisit. I've been there twice now, and it's really cool. The view from up there kind of looks like what's behind you for the people that are watching, like those mountains up top. It looks
Yeah.
like that. So,
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's really a special place. So,
Yes.
okay, so what about Bigfoot?
Bigfoot, I have no connection to Bigfoot here. The Sasquatch I do.
Okay,
Uh,
what's the difference?
different consciousness,
Oh,
different things. Yeah, Sasquatch.
okay,
Um, I have heard a lot of Sasquatch like here where they make noises like clicking noises around you when
okay.
and there is a Sasquatch song that the natives have taught people here that we sing.
Oh,
So yeah, it's there's a big Sasquatch energy here.
big time.
There's a lot of elementals, like a lot of fairies that people will see, and like portals and vortex energy is really strong here. It's such a mystical place. It really is. And the
Super
coolest
mystical.
If you're tuned in and you feel called to the mountain, it's for a reason, and most of the time it's for a recharging of your light body.
Hmm.
Because it's almost like it's a portal where you come and you plug in and you charge up and you leave with that charge and you take that charge out into the world on the grid. And that's why really tune in to it being a very grounding place
Hmm.
for because people will come here for a 2 day experience with me and leave completely changed, and that's in 48 hours. It's
Wow.
energetic. It's energetic.
For sure, for sure. So I think it's really interesting. I've never heard anybody mention that Bigfoot is a different frequency than Sasquatch, because for a lot of videos and things like that online, especially on YouTube, it's kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, I mean, it can be for people. For me personally, it feels like a completely different consciousness in the way that people look at it.
Ah, okay. So like
Yeah.
Bigfoot hunters, quote unquote, are connected
Yeah.
to a different consciousness of the of that being almost, right?
It feels like, to me, it feels like two different realms of
Right.
consciousness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Because
I would agree with that for
the
sure.
way that people look at it, the way that the public looks at it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, for me, and I have a podcast just on my Bigfoot encounters, but um, I've had
Encounters.
three on Mount Shasta. And in that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never encountered in physical or seen either,
So it wasn't
but I
actually physical, but it was telepathic, and it was like hearing the sounds. But the telepathy, oh no, actually there was a visual encounter. It was the green eyes that were looking into our van from 8 feet up.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that I mean that's visual, but it wasn't the full like body. I just saw the eyes.
Okay. Ugh. Mm. I can feel them around all the time.
Oh,
I
they're
think
there, big
I
time.
think what it is like the way that the public perceives Bigfoot is like this big creature, and I think Sasquatch just feels like more of the spiritually related term of the actual being, and like maybe it is the same being, but just the fact that people call it Bigfoot, it just feels different to me.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm still unraveling that whole relationship for myself with with them because for
Yeah.
the Northwest of America and Canada, Bigfoot is on their totem poles.
Mhm.
Or Sasquatch is on their totem poles. They have stories of generations and generations encountering them. Um,
Yeah.
there's different ones, just like people. There's good ones that are really helpful, and then there's ones that are a little bit more mischievous and just like
Yeah. Like
people, you know?
any consciousness, like the ETs, you know? There's
Yeah,
different levels of this, different levels of elementals. Yeah, there's different levels of everything.
for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, so so what besides the encounter during Tai Chi, what have been some of your personal other experiences that have been like really far out? Like, have you seen the little people there?
I personally have not seen the little people. A lot of what I've seen is like the ET stuff. I'm very galactically connected myself.
Big time.
And I was shown actually I was offered to open a wellness center overseas, and I chose to come here instead because I was guided here for contact
Hmm.
purposes.
Nice.
And what's going to happen with guiding people into that. But I've had so many contact experiences now with like beings, and like not physical contact, but where there will be a light being in front of me and there will be a ship right ahead or like a ship right over me, like hovering. And
Wow.
it's a lot of ships, a
Hmm.
lot of starships, a lot of UFO stuff for me personally. And then like with one group, it was pretty crazy. I was at the base of the mountain with this group, and we had this ship come right over the entire group, and then blast all these orbs on us. And everybody was like, "Love you." They were feeling love and like bliss, and it was so beautiful. We got it on film, and
Wow.
that was okay. I will tell you the coolest experience I've had with a group is on the 888 portal last year.
Woo!
And
That's a huge portal.
Oh my God. I can't wait for the next one here in Mount Shasta. I'm going to have a retreat on 8/8 again at this place. The biggest medicine wheel in the world, the mandala at the base of the mountain.
Oh, I
And
think I know the person that has the land for that.
okay, yeah. Yeah. So
Cool.
that's where I'm doing my retreat again. But that is where we were, and we I did a whole contact thing on the mandala. And that day we saw it was broad daylight. We
Uh-huh.
saw a fleet of ships just flying over our head, and everybody was cheering like, it's happening. It was like that.
Wow.
And then another fleet of ships, and it was like broad daylight, just ship, 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 ship. And then that night, it was just like fleets and fleets of ships, and we have it all on video. The group was like there was 20 people, just like and
Wow.
it was so beautiful, and everyone got tons of downloads, tons of activation. Sometimes when you have that connection with Galactic Family, like you're getting activated, you're getting some kind of energy. I've had lots of experiences where like there was a ship that came right over me, and I felt like a rubber band was snapping in my ear. It was brrr. It was like
Whoa.
I was receiving some kind of download. I can physically feel it coming in. There's just so many wild experiences people will have out here, especially because there is so much activity here.
I
Hmm.
love it. I love it. That's amazing. And have you ever watched Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia?
I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah.
So there, Emery Smith is one of the guys that goes on a lot, and then in the later seasons, he took over the show as the host.
Hmm.
And I got to meet him at Lightning in a Bottle in 2018,
Nice.
and he did a whole talk about it when like that show just came out, and it was like really hot, right? And
Hmm.
he worked with extraterrestrials in these top secret military bases where they were analyzing the DNA of these beings, and they had a bunch of ships down there and things like that. And he mentioned that a lot of the ships, not all of them, but a lot of them were actually extensions of their organic bodies.
Yeah. Hmm.
So a lot of like I never that like clicked in a lot for me
Yeah. It's great.
because it was like, okay, you can have the ship, and the reason they don't need controllers and buttons and stuff is because it's literally an extension of their body, just
Yeah.
like your fingers are on your hand. Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
when you talked about that ship that you saw that was more rainbow translucent, that's what I thought of. Like that might have been one of the
Exactly.
ones where it's like actually it's part of its body.
Right. I've been taken up in ships after like I'll be it's almost like I don't even know if I'm astral projecting myself, but I will feel like I'm just being taken up to a ship immediately. It's happened to me a bunch of times. And I'm in the ship, and like one time I was just shot out of my body, and I'm at the top of the mountain on
Wow.
Shasta. This was like a few months ago.
Uh-huh.
And I'm standing up there, and there's a bunch of us up there. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, there's an arrival happening of something. We're there for a meeting.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's like what looks like a big cloud ship, like a big like a mothership kind of cloud looking thing. And
Hmm.
then it transforms into an actual Pleiadian mothership.
Yeah.
And shot back down into my body. I'm like, what the heck just happened? The
Wow.
next morning, I wake up, I look up, and that cloud is there on top of the mountain. And I'm like, I was there last night, and I saw
Wow.
that that's a Pleiadian mothership
Hmm.
beyond the veil. And I'm like, okay, now I'm understanding why I look at these clouds sometimes, and I'm like, that is not just a cloud. That is a cloaked ship because there's
Right.
a
That's what I was
difference.
gonna say. That's how they cloak.
It was a cloaked ship.
Hmm.
And so that's happened to me a lot of times while I'll go up into a ship. And there's been a couple times where I've been taken to see what the new earth is and what it feels like and what it's going to be when what it feels like the old earth has just cut completely split off from what we can perceive.
Hmm.
And I was in Mount Shasta, the ascended version of Mount Shasta, the fifth dimensional frequency of it. Everything was brighter. The trees were bigger. I was trying to look through the veil to see the old earth. And I was like, okay, this is after everything has happened. Like, whoa. And just really looking around and perceiving it. And it felt so different. and then shot back into my body. So it's like I get taken on these ships and get taken to see things, and then I come back and then I talk about it and teach it, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that resonates," and I'm like, "Yeah, because you guys have already been there. You know this is going to happen."
Wow, I love
Yeah.
that. Well, that
Yeah.
brings on the question of telos. Like, do you believe that? Because I've heard and read and watched videos about people that have actually gone into tunnels into the mountain and have actually visited the city. But for a lot of people, they say it's in the 5D. And then I talked with Peter of Mount Shasta, who's one of the elders there, and he said that this concept wasn't even around till like the 60s or 70s of a city inside the mountains. So, what are your thoughts on it? What are your experiences with it?
So my experience is I've been etherically into telos. Like I've been taken in etherically, not physically.
Okay.
Are, there's different experiences people can have based on your state of consciousness.
Hmm.
And there's something called initiates. And there have been people allowed to become initiates that can access certain tunnels and go down into the inner earth. Because, whether you think telos exists or not, the inner earth does exist. And there are tunnel systems. There's a Gartha, there's a network in the inner earth, and it does exist in another dimension, another frequency. So unless you're tuned to that frequency, or you're allowed to be attuned to that frequency, you can't perceive it.
Hmm.
So, and we did have the ancient civilization of Lemuria and Atlantis, and they got into a war, and there was a fall of their civilization. And it is said to be that a few 100,000 of them, still exist underneath the mountain. They were able to survive and then build a fifth dimensional city underneath the mountain because they were fourth dimensional and they raised their consciousness. And eventually they'll be on the surface with us again, teaching us how to become fifth dimensional and helping us. I did not believe that until I met Adama.
Oh, what?
He's the high priest of Telos. And,
Right.
I've heard stories. I've heard a million people channeling Adama, and I've read the books Telos, which I really resonate with the person who wrote those books, Telos, Volume 1, 2, and 3. Arlise Jones, I think, I'm not pronouncing it right. But I resonate with that. And I didn't know that this was a Dhamma until later on, but I was here in Mount Shasta and I was at Castle Lake and I was on my journey and I'm just like, okay, creator, why am I being brought here so much? What am I
Hmm.
supposed to do with all of this? And then, oh, it's 333 right now. That's an ascended master number.
Yeah, it is. Oh, perfect.
And then I'm like I went to take a photo like this, right?
Yeah.
And my friend is standing in front of my phone looking at me. So there's nothing behind me. And I feel something go behind me. I'm like, I feel a person. And I'm like, no one's there. I'm like, did you see anyone? She's like, no. And I was like, wait, I took a photo. And I look in the photo. And there's this very tall man who's blonde. And he has like really lanky, bendy arms. And he's looking right at me and making like a hand signal. Right. And I turn around and I'm walking. And then I have this conversation. So that
Wow.
took me into I'm supposed to bring people, groups of people here.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that was a dom until later, and I have that photo still.
I want to see all these photos. I know you can't post some of them, but
I'm not
I'd love
posting
for
it.
you to text me them.
I will. Will. And I did learn that, that I'm going to meet this consciousness again. And, we're all going to be having meetings and we're all going to be coming back to I'm going to be coming back to my memories on why I'm working with these beings here.
Hmm.
And now I'm very clear because a lot of us had to come back here and have this whole human experience and then awaken to the ascended version of ourselves and embody that multidimensionality again.
Hmm.
And that's what we're all remembering right now. Okay, we have the consciousness of this. Now we're embodied in this physical vessel, and this avatar is this consciousness because we had to awaken back to that again after coming back and having to complete this cycle of whatever initiations we have to go through. And a
For
lot of
sure.
us don't remember all that we are yet. We're in a remembrance process.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. One thing that I remember learning about when I first went to Mount Shasta was that what was it, like the 70s, I think, maybe even the 80s, that they have documentation of these beings walking down the street in the town of Mount Shasta where they were all blonde with pale skin and like these
Yeah.
ancient Lemurians.
Yeah.
And do you remember when that last sighting was?
I don't remember, but I remember a lot of people talking about, they used to come into town and they would trade like gold nuggets for, goods and things like that. And I absolutely believe it's just not safe for that to happen anymore at this point because it's become so destructive here.
Hmm.
But they will show themselves. I have seen beings like walking around. They will show themselves here and there. You'll be able to tell who's who.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're open and tuned in enough, you'll be like, yeah, that's not a human. I had
Right.
a client here one time, and she's very, very well known. And I did some healing work on her, and we had a contact experience. And we were literally walking at the lake, and there were these two 7 foot tall beings wearing suits following us everywhere. And so you'll know, she looks at me and goes, they're not human, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. So there's like these consciousnesses walking around and you can see them, but some people will be like, oh, those are two tall, really, really tall guys walking by.
And these
And so,
weren't her bodyguards or anything.
yeah, no.
Okay.
Ugh.
Wow.
They were like just watching. They were watching. And
Wow.
you can tell who's who if you're tuned in, for
Oh,
sure.
for sure. For sure.
People just be like, oh, it's just like they don't even notice.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, Mount Shasta is such a divine portal, like you said. It's just so magical.
It is.
And for anybody that hasn't visited, it's profound. And the most powerful day to visit is on 8/8, August 8th,
Um, and
of
I'm doing
every
my
year.
the mandala on those dates, so
Yeah. Yeah,
come.
it's a really, yeah. I mean, we'll for sure add all your links to your websites and all your courses and everything. And yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be, I mean, yeah, it's such a portal. How many people are you opening it up to?
I'm just opening it up. I'm capping it at 20 people.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
perfect. So it'll be a nice
Yeah.
small group.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
It was a lot of energy last year. So yeah, we're keeping it that amount.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a
Nice.
big energy. I mean, I do group spinal energetic sessions and they get really they're big energy. And then we do lots of meditations. We go to all the portals and the vortexes and we do lots of amazing, incredible workshops. So it gets everybody's vessel really opened up. And like that way you can channel the energy of the mountain. And it's such a powerful teacher. Like, here's the thing that I tell people about Mount Shasta. She's a teacher. She's going to teach you exactly what you want to know or you need, not what you want, right?
Hmm.
So people come here and they'll leave and I'll be like, I'll give them a little disclaimer that like, okay, you're not going to go back to the same life. You're not the same frequency. So that's going to reflect. And I call it the spin cycle. So you just went up in frequency while you were here. So you're going to go back to your life, and everything that's dense in your life is going to spin out. That's not supposed to be in your life anymore. And so people go back, they're like, what the heck is happening? They feel amazing here. And they're like, oh my God, I know. I told you you're shifted.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's
It's
you need,
medicine.
and you need everybody, like, I highly recommend like leaving at least a couple of days for integration after visiting Mount Shasta,
Oh,
because
yeah.
like some sort of nature wherever you live when you go back home, or like grounding, a lot of
It's a
meditation,
shot.
water, like it's a huge, like, it's important to integrate everything.
It is, and it's such a process of integration. That's
Yeah.
why before I moved here, I was coming here for years, like back and forth, reintegrating, reintegrating. I needed to go through breaking through all my limitations before I was able to really live in this energy. Because when you live here all full time, it's intense. Like it brings up all your stuff,
Oh yeah,
and like it takes some special beings to live here and hold that high energy. So yeah, that was definitely an initiation for me. But when you come here, you get the dose, you get the medicine, you take it back, you integrate it, and you shift.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and that part for people, for me, I'll just speak about myself, like letting go of a lot of those old friendships, old relationships, older jobs, like things that were no longer aligned, was sometimes of a struggle.
Right.
And
Right.
and then the more I just realized, like, okay, I'm just gonna trust and let it be what it is, things just started naturally falling away. Like I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
Like I just like my
That's
friends in
it.
college that I would drink with, like just just like, I got a new number, phone numbers like got lost, like things just slowly
Yeah.
fizzled out like that. And what I've found from people that have been on the path for a while, it seems as though there's like a 10-year cycle where, sometimes the friends and family members and things like that didn't really resonate or thought we were crazy at some point, like 10 years go by and some of them might find interest and start their awakening. And that's been an interesting cycle that I've noticed that some of my friends have shared that have been on the path for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like you said, it just takes care of itself. And it's your resistance to that happening that creates that, like, oh, I'm suffering feeling.
Big time. Big time. Big time. And the
Yeah.
hardest
Yeah.
part sometimes is like accepting that a certain person just isn't in alignment anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard. Because here's the thing that I've had the realization lately, like you see potential in somebody. Somebody said this on Instagram, you see a potential in somebody, but are you actually seeing their potential or are you seeing if I were in their shoes, I would be doing this way, you know?
Mm,
And it's us just releasing that attachment to what we want for that person and letting them go on their path that sets us free.
right. Right. Big time. Big time. And I'll be honest, a lot of times those really hard breakups and when there's like this deep love, those have been my biggest catalyst to like look at
Yeah.
myself and be like, holy crap, like what was I doing? Like why was I acting this way? Where did that come from? Like what could I do to be better tomorrow? Like
Right. It's
it's
huge realizations when you step back and you take accountability and you learn from all of that.
yeah, yeah, big
Yeah.
time. And the heartbreak and yeah, that deep like splitting when there's a strong bond has been one of my biggest catalysts where it's like once there is like a reconnection with self for me, then I just rocket ship to a
That's
different
it.
place.
Liberate yourself from that suffering and you have the realizations, okay, this served a purpose and I'm grateful for that purpose and this is what I learned. Integrate, integrate, integrate.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and I've asked other guests before, and for everybody, integration is so different. So, what are some of the things that you like to do for integration?
Oh, yeah. Integration is something that I really have to carve out time for myself because I tend to go like an energizer bunny, doing, doing, doing. And integration for me is nature. Integration for me is just going and sitting by my tree
Hmm.
and go into the water and just praying with the land, and that to me is the best integration. And I recommend it to everybody, because everyone's like, what do I do, what do I do? Well, maybe you don't need to do, maybe you just need to go outside and just be.
Yeah,
To me, that is my deep, deep state of rest and receiving, is let the nature medicine, let the mother hold you, because you're always holding everything else on yourself. Like just let Mama Earth hold you
hmm
and give you what you need for that medicine. We have so much medicine available to us with the mother. Just be with the mother. That's my medicine. That's my integration.
for sure, for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
do you have any practices or anything that you do while you're in nature?
I do. Yeah, I do breath work when I'm in nature and I just breathe and I connect with all the nature around me. I do meditation. I just sit and I simply meditate.
Hmm.
I simply turn my brain off and I just open up my vessel and I let the light come in and I ground it down into the earth. I do a pillar activation in nature where I'll just open my pillar of light, connected to the heavens, go down through me and connect it into the earth. And this is something the Pleiadians, where that's my origin is from the Pleiades, have
Yeah.
taught me that, to anchor in our pillar of light. Like, don't forget, you have this beautiful pillar of light that connects the heaven to the earth, and that's through you. And the more you anchor in your pillar of light, the more you anchor in heaven to your life. And so we can be the pure representation of heaven on earth by living it through us. So I think meditation and anchoring in my pillar of light has been really big for me because it brings you back to the heart. It brings you back into the heart's consciousness.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
really powerful technique, and um, I find for myself that when I create that pillar, it's also really nice if I'm like working with Hape or if I'm clearing energy for myself. I just send any energy that's no longer serving me that I may have picked up from others right into that pillar, and I ask Creator to alchemize it, and
Yeah.
just take it up to wherever it needs to go to be alchemized and sent back to the light. So,
Yep,
work,
exactly.
yeah, working with that pillar is powerful.
Yeah. The biggest frequency I work with in general, though, is the violet flame. And I know
Oh
that, if
yeah.
you know the seventh sacred flame of creation, and this violet flame is what I do. I use it in all of my healing sessions. I use it in my daily life, and I teach about it daily to people. I bring it in every single meditation that I do. It's such a powerful flame to work with, and it helps you alchemize things and harmonize and balance things. It can help you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So you can just call upon the violet flame to just blaze through you and dissolve any density and alchemize anything that's out of balance. Go move it through your energy field, bring it into your room to dissolve anything that's out of harmony and bring it into your life, your workspace. You can just bring the violet flame into your life. That's my favorite frequency to work with.
I do it every night, and I say, I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. And then I imagine the flame surrounding me. And then
Yeah.
I do it 12 times. And then on the 12th time, I like bring it into my heart. And then I surround myself with the violet flame. And it, yeah, it's so powerful. It's a very powerful way to protect your aura and your body, but it seems as though I need to reactivate it every 24 hours, at least for me.
Yeah, and it's like just a reminder that it's there, just a reminder that it exists and you're just calling upon it, and nobody needs to go read a book about it to understand it. You can simply call upon the violet flame. It's that simple. But just remembering to do it and to work with that frequency consciously is so freaking powerful. It can change your life.
Big time, big time.
Yeah.
And then like staying consistent with it, just making it part of your life, just like brushing your teeth. Just I mean that goes for anything, meditation, yoga, like I remember
Yeah.
when I started doing yoga, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll check out this studio, this type of yoga on Monday, and then I'll take a break for a week." And then I remember one of my buddies was like, "Bro, that's not how yoga works. You have to do it every day. It's like it's a lifestyle, you know?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, okay." And that like shifted something in me, and eventually it inspired me through a series of events to do the 1,000 days of a Kundalini Yoga Kriya, which was primo, primo.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
It's it is spiritual practice. Mm-hmm.
yeah, they call it uh um, what's the word? It starts with an S. Um, what's the word in Sanskrit for like a daily practice? I'm blanking out
Oh,
on the word.
I'm
Uh,
blanking out too.
but anyways, it's yeah, for some reason it's not coming in. But yeah, it's just continuing, and that commitment I've found the universe and creator, the one that, the great mystery, right? Like really
Yeah.
appreciates that commitment and that devotion, like whatever it is that you're doing, it seems like if you just show up and do it every day, your life will change, guaranteed.
100%. And it's like anything, like you're not going to lose weight and get fit if you're not going to the gym and eating right every day. It's like you got to commit. It's
Right,
simple.
right. For sure, for sure. Yeah, so what
Sadhana, is that the word we're looking for?
sadhana,
Sadhana.
sadhana, yep.
Sadhana. Okay. I was
Yeah,
not aware of that word. Now I am. I looked it up.
yeah,
Sadhana.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's the word that I was trying to, that I was trying, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
was escaping my mind.
Consistency in sadhana leads to transformation.
Big time, big time.
Nice. Okay. I learned something new today.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what we're here to do. I think that, each one of us
Awesome.
carries these codes, and then the more we interact, the more these everything opens up for each one of us. And it's really beautiful to witness.
It is. It is. Everyone is just like willing to put their ego aside and learn and take accountability for themselves and not point the fingers anymore at everybody else and what they've done to them and point it all back here and say, what do I need to work on myself to become more love, unconditional love, so that we can have everyone in their heart on the planet so that we can raise this planet into that frequency. Like that's where it's at.
For sure. For sure. And it made me think about, like, when you're pointing your finger, you have four pointing back at you, right? But but
Yeah.
but then I saw this funny video on Instagram where somebody like took a clip of that, somebody saying that, like four fingers pointing back
Yeah.
at you when you point your finger, and then somebody went like this. They just like pointed all five fingers at the person. It just cracked me up. I was like, that's hilarious. That's like comedy is so important in this life, you know?
Medicine. Laughter medicine is the best.
The best. The best. And for anybody that hasn't tried laughter yoga, it's a thing. And like you can like
Mhm.
pretend to laugh at first, but then it actually turns into real laughing. And have you ever tried it?
It's contagious. Yeah, my friend Mario Godiva, he did an activation on one of my retreats and he just starts laughing and tells everyone, just laugh. And we're all laughing and it's contagious. And was like, that felt so good.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been such an honor to have you on here, Gail. You're always welcome back on at any time. We'd love to have you on again. And I feel like we have so much more we could talk about, but we're right there on time. So um, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been such an honor to talk with you. And it's really awesome to hear all the amazing offerings you're doing and sharing with the world. So thank you for all the ways that you're helping humanity.
And thank you for everything you're doing to get more of this information out there. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in and holding down the light on the grid. We're doing this together. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Of course. Until next time, take care.